what is Carson Beck's value to Georgia? That's a question that I think a lot of people are wondering right now, considering all the moving parts with Georgia's quarterback situation heading into 2024. Couple things first. Um, I'm talking monetarily as well as his play on the field. So it's both. This is something that Matt Hayes wrote about earlier today on Tuesday on Saturday on South. Matt's been around the ball game for a while. Here's the important quote from him. He says, two different sources told, I guess him, I don't know. Georgia's been working on a 2024 NIL compensation package for Beck since October. Kirby Smart is desperate to keep a championship caliber quarterback and avoid the unknown of what happens if he can't. Beck's NIL compensation package more than likely needs to be at least the same amount or more than he'd earn for an annual salary in his first year of the NFL, not the entirety of the rookie contract he signed. So that's what Matt Hayes is writing. There's a couple of things here. First of all, in terms of the number that he's talking about here, which is anywhere between $2 to $4 million, that sounds high to me, and that's not what I've heard. But he may know something that I do not on this front. That sounds high to me, though, particularly the four. In terms of that, there's an NIL deal being worked. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's much confusion. I mean, there might be confusion. I don't think there is any behind the scenes from those of us at least somewhat in the know about what's been going on with NIL lately. Quarterbacks matter a lot. They may be valued. What's so strange anymore is, with guys having the ability to transfer, to some degree, quarterbacks, they're easy to get now. I mean, you didn't have the ability to get them for such a long time, and now you can. I mean, just because you don't sign someone, we've been talking about Dylan Raiola quite a bit. Just because you don't sign someone in year one doesn't mean they won't play for you in year 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever. So, what will the future hold for everyone? I don't know. My suspicion is that Carson Beck will come back to Georgia. That I'm not the only one that feels that way. It's my understanding that he was at the team function on Saturday. That doesn't mean he couldn't leave and go to the NFL, but there's a lot of clutter at the top of the NFL draft right now, and what difference does it make if you come back for another season? It makes a big difference if you get with the right team. There's really, I think the problem right now is it's a bit locked in who the 1 and the 2 are going to be in quarterback, and it might be a little bit more locked in after that, but it definitely is locked in at the 1 and the 2 with Caleb Williams and then North Carolina's quarterback, Drake May. After that, there's no certainty that Carson would go over whoever else is sort of left standing. I think in the 25 draft, that's a different ball game. He would go into this thing. There's two things going on at once here. We know there's multiple things. The discussion about the quarterbacks coming in. I mean, he's not going in front of Caleb Williams. That's not happening. Drake May, I don't think he would go in front of him either, but he's not going in front of Caleb Williams. B, Carson did not win the national championship this season. Does that matter? He said he wanted to win the national championship because everybody wants to. The other thing is, he didn't win the Heisman Trophy. He didn't even go to New York. So why does any of that matter? Well, it matters at the end of the day because there's a lot that goes on with both of those things. I mean, you're the starting quarterback at Georgia. That matters for sure with stuff like NIL. You're the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback from LSU or Georgia or Florida or wherever. That's with you the rest of your life. And he would come back as a top 5 guy in terms of all of that. So I do think there's significant value here as it relates to what he would bring back. You're talking about a guy who this isn't paying someone like Carson 7 figures. That's not like the other guys that are out there. I mean, Carson signed with Georgia. He's been at Georgia for years now. He's been there longer than Mike Bobo in this current iteration of Kirby Smart. So this isn't someone you're really taking a risk on, so to speak. You're not taking a risk on him. He's an understood asset, and he's someone that is very good in terms of the. I hate all the stuff I'm going to say here. The glue, all of the terms we use about being a good locker room guy, all that stuff. Well, Carson Beck is that. People like him. And we're talking about a team or a program, I should say, that has not exactly gotten off track here lately. So I don't think at all it's out of the question that Georgia wins the national championship in 2024 should Carson Beck return. I don't think it's out of the question that they win it if he doesn't return either, by the way. One thing that Matt Hayes is talking about in this article, and I can't speak to this part, is there's a fair amount of guys who are waiting to decide where they're going to transfer based on what Carson Beck does. Listen, I mean, just in Athens, there's a lot more Carson Beck is staying than there is Carson Beck is not staying. So that's all I've got to say about that part. So I don't know why necessarily. I mean, the guys that are transferring schools, they're more well informed than we are because they're talking to the coaches and they understand the situation completely. I mean, today you saw where the Duke quarterback transferred to Notre Dame. I mean, this may be what Notre Dame just does from here on out. Maybe what a lot of people do. But what you can't get back, and this is something you can set up for a while. What you can't get back when you look at that board, I've already moved the transfer kids off. You got 3 locked-in guys right now at quarterback at Georgia. I got Dylan Raiola up there still because he's not decommitted yet. But you got 3 guys up there on there who have committed to Georgia, signed with Georgia, and they're still in the program at Georgia. They're not transferred in. I think over time that may matter a lot for the program at Georgia specifically. That's not the way everybody's not going to be able to run their program the same way that Kirby's able to run his or Nick's able to run his. Nick and Kirby both have had a lot of success with quarterbacks. I mean, Stetson Bennett, I will add, was a transfer quarterback. So was JT Daniels. So Kirby's had success with transfer quarterbacks, but I mean, saying Stetson's a transfer guy, that's a little bit of a trick play there because, yeah, he was, but he came back. But I think what you can set up here is over time, you have guys that are in your program and that have been in your program. And if there's going to be about, 15 players that slosh in and out in the portal each year, that's not Georgia's got 13 guys, 12 of which were on scholarship, who are hitting the portal to leave. And most of the guys, you don't know their names. I would imagine you know Brock Vandegrift's name, Xavier Story's name, and if you're super into it, you'd know Blasky's name, the offensive lineman. The rest of this team is essentially coming back. You're going to lose, presumably, Brock Bowers. There's going to be some guys that you lose who leave early. But a lot of the guys are coming back. And why? Well, I mean, part of it is they can make the decision to stay now because of what we're talking about with these NIL deals. Everybody wants to talk about NIL as evil and all this. I mean, is it really? I don't think it is at all, frankly. I mean, I've done NIL deals with Stetson, with Keeley, and those worked out very well for me, and I think they worked out very well for them. So I don't know why this is considered to be so evil, or it's changing the sport. Yeah, it's changed the sport. So did the forward pass. I mean, I don't know. I think that if you are Carson Beck and you have the capability to have one more year in college before you're possibly the number 1 overall draft pick, you're not going to be the number 1 overall draft pick right now. You just won't be. a year from now, you could be the number one overall draft pick and get picked by the Falcons, or God bless you if you do, or enter the name of any NFL franchise that doesn't have a franchise quarterback, of which there are a lot. So the Raiders, the Falcons, the Jets. There's a lot of places that he could go in the Giants and immediately, be a player for them. Right now, that would not be the situation. Now, does he want to go to college still? I don't know that. Does he, but if we're talking about over $1 million, that settles down the should I leave or not. And listen, this is not a family that is, Carson doesn't come from a place where he's like desperate to need money necessarily. But I do think that, and neither does Dylan Raiola, by the way. But I think that in both cases, these guys are working, man. I mean, like they're doing work. They're doing stuff people like me and you cannot do, and that they're getting paid for it. I don't have a problem with it. I don't care if people have a problem with it or not. It's what it is. And so, I don't think it's strange that Georgia would pay him to stay. He is abnormally important in the grand scheme of things. All the signs are pointing to Carson Beck is staying. But the draft eligibility declaration is not until January. So we'll just see. But, Jake Fromm made a mistake. But that's what Jake Fromm wanted to do. Now, he may not have viewed it as a mistake, but in terms of the way to do it, he made a mistake. He left too early. Would he have gone higher? Not the way he played in 2020, and not the way he played in 2019. No. But Kirby Smart has learned a lot. You can tell he's a better head coach now than he was in 2019, to be frank. What he's not going to do is get caught with his pants down. That's not going to happen again. And he did happen in 2020. How much of that was from leaving and they didn't know it? I'm not sure if I know enough about that situation to say. But Jake Fromm had not had not made it public what he was doing before he left New Orleans after they won the Sugar Bowl. And it was surprising. Even though people had told me over and over and over again, he is not going to stick around. He is going to go to the NFL. It just didn't seem like he had done enough to position himself well, and he went in the 5th round. I don't know if he's on a team right now or not, but it wasn't what it could have been for Jake. Is this the same situation with Beck? No, it's not the same. There are different variables here, but I do think for Beck, my suspicion, I think he should come back. My suspicion is that he will come back. And all of the indicators are that that's the case. With that, here's the caveat. All of the indicators on Monday morning were that Dylan Raiola was winding up at Georgia within 7 days or so, whatever it was, the practices. So we'll just see. But what is his value? Significant.